He was a god of fertility, embodying the powers of new life in nature in the spring. The name Tammuz seems to have been derived from the Akkadian form Tammuzi, based on early Sumerian Damuzit, the D and the T, Damu or Tamu, Tammuzit, the flawless young. The later standard Sumerian form Damuzit in turn became Damuzi in Akkadian. The earliest known mention of Tammuz is in texts dating to the early part of the early dynastic Third Dynasty period, 2600 to 2334 BC. So this was before the earth was divided. These are the second seal, the people of the book from the generations who come off of Noah's Ark in the Bible, you know, biblical Noah. I say coming from the Great Pyramids of Giza with Khufu or Mendes, the pre-dynastic period, or the first dynasty in Egypt, okay, period, all the way down to like the 8th dynasty, so period, in Egypt, okay, 2334 BC. Like the 4th and this might be the 4th and the 5th dynasty in Egypt, from the pre-dynastic period to the 4th and the 5th dynasty, who are the pyramid builders, and the first shipbuilders in Egypt, okay, in Sumer. It says, but his coat probably was much older. Although the coat is attested for most of the major cities of Sumer in the 3rd and the 2nd millennium BC. It's centered in the cities around the central grassland area, which we call Eden. Eden, or the biblical Eden, E-D-I-N, Eden. This is the Tigris-Euphrates River system in the Nile River Valley, the Fertile Crescent area, okay. The Batibira modern Madana, they call Al-Madana in Saudi Arabia, where Tammuz was the city god. In Al-Madana, in Batibira, okay. As shown by his most common epithet, Sipit. Sipit means shepherd. Tammuz was essentially a pastoral deity. His father, Enki, is rarely mentioned. And his mother, the goddess Duta, was a personification of the ewe. The ewe is like a deer or a gazelle. His own name, Damusit, and 2 variant designations for him, Amaga, or the mother milk, and Ululu. Ululu is the multiplier of pastures. Suggests that he actually was the power for everything that a shepherd might wish for. Grass to come up in the desert, healthy lambs to be born, and milk to be plentiful in the mother of animals. When the cult of Tammuz spread to Assyria in the 2nd and the 1st millennium BC, the character of the god seems to have changed from that of a pastoral to that of an agricultural deity. The text suggests that in Assyria and later among the Sabaeans of Haran, Tammuz was basically viewed as the power in the grain, dying when the grain was milled. The cult of Tammuz centered around 2 yearly festivals, one celebrating his marriage to the goddess Inyana. Who is Inyana? Inyana is also called Ishtar or Asherah, okay, who is, you know, what the Statue of Liberty in the United States is the same thing. She's an Asherah, she is an Inyana, which represents the planet Venus, okay. Aphrodite, Venus, okay. Inyana, Ishtar, Asherah. Libertas is the same thing. The Statue of Liberty is supposed to represent that same thing. All right. The other lamenting his death at the hands of demons from the netherworld. During the third dynasty of 2112 to 2004 BC. This is right at the Tower of Babel period in the Bible, like Genesis chapter 11, 10 and 11. During the third dynasty of the city of Yuma, modern Tel Joka, the marriage of the god was dramatically celebrated in February through March. Dumas month, or the festival of Tammuz, during the Asin Lhasa period in 2004 to 1792 BC. The texts relate that in the marriage rite, the king actually took on the identity of the god, and thus by consummating the marriage with a priestess incarnating the goddess, magically fertilized and fecundated all of nature for the year. The celebrations in March through April that mark the death of the god also seem to have been dramatically performed. Many of the laments for the occasion have as a setting a procession out into the desert to the fold of the slain god. In Assyria, however, in the 7th century BC, the ritual took place in June through July. In the major cities of the realm, a couch was set up for the god upon which he lay in state. His body appears to have been symbolized by an assemblage of vegetable matter, honey, and a variety of other foods. Among the texts dealing with the god is the Tammuz's dream. A myth telling how Tammuz had a dream presaging his death and how the dream came true in spite of all his efforts to escape. This is similar to Osiris, okay, or Dionysus. He's similar, like a fertility god. He's similar to Min god as well, who we call Min, the fertility deity in Egypt, okay. A closely similar tale forms the second half of the Sumerian myth, the descent of Inanna, in which Inanna, who is the Akkadian Ishtar, sends Tammuz as her substitute to the netherworld. His sister Jeshtinyana eventually finds him, and the myth ends with Inanna decreeing that Tammuz and his sister may alternate in the netherworld, each spending half of the year among the living. Tammuz's courtship and wedding were a popular theme for love songs and anecdotal verse compositions that seem to have been used primarily for entertainment. A number of true cult texts, however, followed the rite step by step as it told by a close observer, and many laments were probably performed in the actual rites. Eventually, a variety of originally independent fertility gods seem to have become identified with Tammuz. Just like I said, Min god in Egypt is similar, and Osiris is similar. Dionysus, to the Greeks, and the Romans, Bacchus, similar with fertility and vegetation and vineyard, All right. Tammuz of the cattle herders, whose main distinction from Tammuz the shepherd was that his mother was the goddess Nin-sun. Nin-sun, lady wild cow. And that he himself was imagined as a cattle herder may have been an original aspect of the god. The agricultural form of Tammuz in the north, while he was identified with the grain, may also have been an originally independent development of the god from his role as the power in the vegetation of spring. A clear fusion, though very early, was the merger of Tammuz in Uruk with Amash Shum Galana, the one great source of the date clusters, which I believe is a Hittite deity. Okay, that's what the Hebrews would have been. Well, in the time of Abraham, Abraham took a burial plot in the land of Heth, who is the Hittites. The ancestor of the Hittites is named Heb. So Hebron in northern Israel or in Syria, he was Amashum Galana of the Hittites in Anatolia. So the one great source of the date clusters. The power of fertility in the date palm, the Musi, Amashum Galana. A later important fusion was the merger of Tammuz and Damu, a fertility god who probably represented the power in the sap to rise in trees and plants in spring. So it's as well as Tammuz could be Shamash as well, who we say is identified with the order of Melchizedek, and Shem, son of Noah in the Bible. The biblical Shem is Shamash or Tammuz, or his name is Amashum Galana. See, he was like a fertility god to all of the 70 families that came off of Noah's Ark, okay? And if you look up Inyana, she is the mother of the 70 gods. It's like it's 70 families that in Genesis chapter 11, when you Shem, Ham, and Japheth, all of them were the same household. It was biblical Noah or biblical or historical Khufu or historical Menes on the Egyptian kings list. Menes is the biblical Noah, okay? And his whole household, see, he's the pre-dynastic period. And all of the dynasties of Akkad and Sumer, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Ethiopia come from the same boat. See, the tabernacle Zion comes from the belly of the ship. And when they came off the ship, they learned how to cultivate the earth and spread, be fruitful and multiply and spread on the earth. So he's the earth deity in the second seal. We'll talk about that a little more. A fertility god who probably represented the power and the sap of trees and plants in the spring to rise. The relation of still other figures to Tammuz, such as the Musi Abzu, a goddess who appears to have been the power in the waters underground, the Abzu, to bring new life to vegetation, is not entirely clear. All right. So his worship was like, well, his actual life probably would have been in the second seal. In the second seal, we'll have like 3114 BC to 2114 BC. In that period, the second seal. And the third seal is from 2114 to 1114 BC. Okay. It's the third seal. Okay. And there's an archangel that presides over each seal. The first seal, the second seal, it's the flood period. Okay. After the great flood in the Bible, in the reign of Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, the earth was divided around 2357 to 2118 BC. So the music comes at the beginning of the third seal. This is the sword of God, okay. The Pergamos period. Anatolia, in the land of the Hittites, okay. All right, we're going to conclude on that. We're in the month of the Tammuz. We're in the early spring period. This is the month when on the zodiac, the sun is rising in Pisces, okay? And Pisces is like at the international date line, the Pacific. I'm lining my chakras up in heaven with God. We're Pisces. Right here. International Dateline. Okay.